Yeah, so thanks for coming on. This is the first episode of the Madhouse Unfiltered series that I'm doing here. Pretty much, the premise of it is I just want to get some good stories out of people at Bowman Gray. So.
Right. There might be some I can't tell you about now.
Cool. So let's just start from the beginning. How did you get your start in racing?
Oh man, well look around. It was easy for me to. To me, it was never if I race; it was when I race. My grandpa Billy, his brother Bobby started when it started. So they raced. My dad and all our family members were always involved in racing, and then me and Jason came along, and now Slate, and we just kind of what we did.
Cool. So let's dive deeper into that. Tell me about your first time in a car. How did that go?
Oh man, the first time in a car. I remember it, but I don't. And I know that's something that I guess you're supposed to remember. We were at, I think, Caraway, and maybe Daddy can help me with this. Daddy he had gotten there late or something, and the car had to go out and make some laps. So the first time I ever got in a modified, I had to go out and practice the car. And I remember anybody that's racing, that's ever driven a car will relate to this. My leg, whenever you first get in, especially a modified, the clutch is so stiff. Yep. To give you a relation, like a tractor, it's just got a real stiff clutch. And my leg was shaking so bad I couldn't, just shaking and shaking. You couldn't hardly push the clutch in or let it out without stalling it. And I actually got to just kind of ride around and make some laps. I drove a 4-cylinder at Bowman Gray in '94, so that was my first year. But my very first race, is a cool story. My very first race was at Caraway. It had to be '94. Mm-hmm. Very first race I'd ever driven in anything, and it was a 4-cylinder. And I was cleaning out the attic the other day, and I found the old scrapbook, and there's the envelope. And it said 12th place. I think Caraway at the time called them Baby Grand, Baby Stock, Baby something. And the $10 is still in there from where I finished 12th. So I'm going to hold on to that. That'll be a cool one.
There you go. So throughout your career and everything, do you have a race that you're going back in time to think you can change something about that race and it would change the outcome of like your career or just the race?
Oh, boy.
Is there...
Yeah, there's a few of those. There's a few. It's funny whenever people ask you, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but when people ask me just a general question of, is there a race that stands out in your mind? Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's not the ones you win, it's the ones you should have won. Yeah. The Martinsville race where they caught me with a transmission. Mm-hmm. That one I wish we could have done a little different, because I swear we could have won the race without that transmission that day. Right. That would have been a big win at Martinsville with the Welland Tour. So there's a few in there that stick out, just few that like I said, you don't think about the ones that you right. won. You do, yeah. But the ones that you should have won, that you feel like you gave away, right. those are the ones that stick out. And maybe that's what drives, maybe that's what drives you to be better and to try not to let one slip away again.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about Bowman Gray. You've been winning championships since 1999. You have 10 championships under your belt. But over the past few years, that 11th one seems to keep getting away from you. Do you have a plan? Do you have some sort of plan this year in order to...
Anybody that tells you that they have a plan going into Bowman Gray Stadium is lying to you. So you basically, I know people can... Tim Brown will tell you he's got a plan, but you can think you have a plan. And Tim, not that it's a bad thing, but Tim more focuses on championships, where I like to focus on wins, and then hopefully you get a championship at the end of the year. Yeah. You have to take it one race at a time. And I've said this in a few other interviews. When I was younger, I was really aggressive, and the only thing I cared about was winning that race. I didn't care how the outcome was going to be during that race or what the repercussions might be later in the year. Mm-hmm. My goal was that night to win that race. And that's not smart racing if you're looking at a championship. Yeah. Especially at Bowman Gray, the way it's set up. I have to focus on the first race of the year is the Hayes 200. And our goal is to go over there and win that race. But the older you get and the longer you run, and especially in an environment like that, right. There are times where it gets down to the end of the race and there's 5 to go, and you're running 5th and you're faster than the guy in front of you. And you think, I'm not going to win tonight. Let's just get the best finish we can, and you just lock it in. That's not settling, and that's not riding or racing for a championship.
Yeah.
That's just taking sometimes what it gives you. And at Bowman Gray, that's one of the things that I think has helped me over the last several years to be successful is learning that fine line of how much more do I want versus what can we end up with tonight. So
and so we'll transition this direction here. I know you're kind of a history buff when it comes to Bowman Gray and to NASCAR and everything. What's your favorite piece of tidbit, little history that?
Oh man, just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that how many people, the who's of NASCAR, have raced at Bowman Gray, and it's funny to me. Years ago, I'd have probably got upset about it. And social media can be a great thing. Social media can also be a bad thing.
Yeah.
So especially in my shoes. So a lot of the stuff you see really, I don't want to say it blows my mind, but it really makes me question when you see people make comments about Bowman Gray. Bowman Gray has a reputation, okay? But here's the thing. You ever heard somebody say you do 100 good things and you do one bad thing and that's the thing they remember?
Right.
That's Bowman Gray Stadium, okay? Do you know how many races I've raced at Bowman Gray where me and Tim or anybody, Jonathan, anybody, have run side by side, door to door for 5, 6, 8 laps and battle it out. And you can race side by side. They won't show you that video on YouTube. The video they show you on YouTube is somebody spinning somebody out, running through the infield and running into somebody. Yeah. So the thing about Bowman Gray is the history that's there. You think about the Jerry Cooks of the past who made a living coming to Bowman Gray Stadium, who wanted to come to Bowman Gray Stadium. I got buddies in the NASCAR world that I'd love to race there one day because it is Bowman Gray in itself there. I don't think there's one particular thing about Bowman Gray that stands out. It's because it's Bowman Gray. Yeah. So it's yourself. It's a different animal, but it's formatted for entertainment, and you have to understand that coming into. I have seen guys come in and it'll be a 100-lap race and we're 20 laps into the race and it's a cone race and you're running 5th or 6th and they're back there just beating your back bumper off. And it's like, calm down. You have to understand the format here. Yeah. We're going to get 4 or 5 cautions here in just a little bit and you can choose the cone and that way you end up passing a guy with no contact, no anything, and nobody thinks anything about it versus trying to knock him out of the way for 5th 20 laps into a race. That's part of what makes Bowman Gray. So I think as a history thing, it's just, you think about who all has raced. When you look in that feature win book, think about the names who've actually raced there. Right.
So with touching on that as well, since Bowman Gray has been so controversial in the past and everything, what do you think about this NASCAR acquisition that just happened, and how do you think that could potentially change the racing?
Who knows? Who knows? I think that NASCAR is smart enough to realize that if it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah. I'm hoping that there are some things that's going to be implemented that NASCAR will have their finger on that will maybe clean up some stuff at Bowman Gray Stadium. It's hard for us to complain because we know how it's formatted. We know what we're up against when we go over there. And I've told Greg Garrison plenty of times, there's things that Bowman Gray does that I totally disagree with, but I know why they do it. Yeah. If I was Greg Garrison and the Hawkins family, I know why they do it. Do I want to qualify on the pole and draw dead last on a 100-lapper? Absolutely not. But I know why they do it. Yeah. So I get it, but I think that if anything you might see, now this is just me off the cuff. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody that's, for any information whatsoever, not necessarily, but I feel like you might see some stuff with NASCAR coming in. And when I say clean up some stuff, maybe taking care of the drivers, protecting the drivers, some safety stuff you might see start coming into play, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Now, there's a fine line there, but I think that I'm hoping, let's put it that way, I'm hoping that the changes that we do see will be good for us.
Right. So I'm going to transition back into you. So funny enough, I actually found some episodes of the old NASCAR Madhouse series that was on the History Channel. And I just wanted to, I wanted to see, because I saw the episode of Moonlight. It was like the full moon episode. So do you still have any superstitions when it comes to racing?
Well, you're talking to a guy that just picked up a peanut sponsorship and got green in my Citrus Safe logo.
Yeah.
So I used to, and I'll tell the quick story about the peanuts. We were at Concord one year for the North-South Shootout, and a guy rolls up on a four-wheeler, and I'm driving for Philip Smith at the time. The guy rolls up on a four-wheeler, and he's eating shelled peanuts.
Yeah.
And Philip said, "Get him out of here." And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, dude, you got to go." Yeah. Well, we destroyed the car that weekend. Oh, really? And we all thought, "Oh, that's why. It's the peanuts. It's the peanuts. It's the peanuts." The older you get, and the more you race, and then I like to feel like where my faith has taken me over the years. It's hard for me to witness to you that God's in control every time, all the time, no matter what.
Right.
And then something happens that I don't like and say, "Man, that was bad luck." I'm contradicting myself there.
That's right.
As a racer and as someone who's involved in a competitive sport, are there times I think, man, gosh, dog, I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done that, or what underwear did I wear last weekend if you win? There's things that cross your mind. It really does. When a cat crosses the road and you reach up to X the windshield and say, "I don't really believe in that, but man, I'm on the way to the racetrack." Yeah. Listen, we're all human. So there are, in racing, I'll tell you this, the taboos, the 3 taboos in racing is no peanuts in the pits, no green, and no $50 bills. Well, I got the green and I got the peanuts, and $50 bills pays the bills. So, there's a lot of guys that believe in that, and I try not to, but I'm sure I'm swayed sometimes.
So, let me ask this. Have you ever played a prank on another driver in the pits, or on your brother or anything like that?
No. Don't mess with my family, don't mess with my race car.
Okay.
Now, if you did something, something silly or something, I can't think of anything I've done, but no, that's something I don't play around with.
Cool. All right. And just to start wrapping it up here, who has been probably the most influential to your success in racing?
Well, my dad. I can remember at an age where I could just barely remember sitting in the same spot that my family sits now, which is the same spot my dad sat in. I don't know if you saw it when NASCAR was doing that grassroots throwback thing, and there's a picture of my grandpa and my grandma and my dad and Randy sitting on the bleachers. Yeah. And they did a story on it. And that's exactly where my family sits today. Well, me and my brother, my mom and dad went up and recreated that same picture. I'll send that to you.
Okay.
So I can remember being there, watching him and thinking of the excitement of when he was able to win and to go down and just be a part of it. And I can remember being, we're in we call the race shop. The shop down there, that shop was actually built by my dad, my mom, my uncle, and my great uncle. Mm-hmm. And most of the blocks in that shop were used blocks that they chipped the old mortar away from to build that shop. And that's what my dad raced out of and also ran his business out of, which was a body shop. Mm-hmm. So that's the shop I remember growing up in. I cut my finger off. There's pictures of me. I was 7 years old. I cut my finger off in that shop, horsing around with the racing stuff. So it's easy to say, just watching him and doing what he does, and he was just a really good example to us of that it's not always about the money. It's about how hard you work and the dedication you have and the desire, the passion to do it. And I've said this before about growing up, there was a lot of times that my dad, most of the time, wasn't at any sports ball games that we were at. Mm-hmm. I never thought anything about it because I knew where he was. Yeah. Now that I'm in that role, I feel guilty sometimes when I can't be there for my kids. But I think they understand too that this is not a hobby for us; it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you touched on it there. Speaking of your kids here, Slate, he's been getting into racing over the past few years. What's it like for you to see him climbing up those ranks already?
I love it. It's what I guess it's what you dream of. I guess is for somebody to come along and follow the footsteps of the family business, I guess you'd say. But his mama, the way we view it, his mama and myself, we view it a little different. Like I get fueled up about it, and I haven't been scared or nervous or anything like that yet. I get fired up, and sometimes I catch myself getting upset where she gets a little nervous and worried about her little baby. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you this: I watched the documentary they did on Kevin Harvick, mm-hmm. and something he said in there that stuck out to me is he said, "I have to be careful how I talk to Keelan." He said, because I analyze every move he makes because I know what I'm watching and I see what he's doing and I've done it, I've been there, and I can still do it. Yeah. So whenever I see Slate overcharge the corner, and I caught myself at one time saying, Slate, why are you doing that? Mm-hmm. Well, he doesn't know any better. Just because I do and I see it. Right. But I love it. I love, we're here today. Whenever we get done with this, we're going to keep working on the race cars. And I always told him the same thing my dad did with me and Jason is, I'll help you. Whatever you want, I'll help you. I'm not doing it for you. Mm-hmm. And there are times I have to do stuff because he's at school, because that's got to come first right now. But he wants to be here, and he wants to be a part of it. So it does my heart good.
That's good. And last question about Slate there. I know you've been racing for the better part of 30 years or so. Is there a...
Man, that's a long time.
I know, yeah.
I'm old, ain't I?
Does it ever pop in your mind, like, is there a point where you might step back and focus your energy towards Slate?
I think that there is... I think there's a switch that flips. Mm-hmm. I honestly believe that. I think that some guys try to flip the switch, but I've said, and I guess I'm going to stick to it. As long as I feel like I'm competitive and can win races, I want to keep racing. Now, I may wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm done. And the funny thing is we've talked about this, in the Southern Modifieds, my dad is the only one I know of that the day he said I quit, he never got back in a race car. Not for practice, not for a race, for nothing. Between Junior Miller and Philip Smith and Don Smith and Johnny Johnson and Frank Fleming and all the ones I grew up watching have all quit and come back and quit and come back. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I've had people say, because everybody knows the history of me and Junior Miller, I wished he'd quit. I wished he'd quit. I say, listen, I'm going to be that guy one day. And I don't think it's fair for somebody to tell me to quit. When I want to quit is when I want to quit. So that's kind of what, when that switch flips, I guess, is when I'll decide I'm done. I'd like to think that maybe Slate can have a future in racing. Yeah. And I've told him that there's two paths to take here. And I don't mind saying this. I think that anybody watching this would agree. I said, if you think you're going to have a future in racing, it can't be out of Bowman Gray. Yeah. Okay? If you want to race on Saturday nights like I've done, that's awesome. We'll do everything we can to make it happen. But if you want a future in NASCAR and to get away and do something bigger, it can't be at a Bowman Gray or any local short track for a certain period of time. Right. So we're kind of focusing on that. We're getting him set up with an iRacing setup, and we're trying to get him as many laps as possible. I race Orange County this weekend with the Smart Tour. He's also there with the 602s. He should have won Florence earlier in the year. He 62-lap race, and he led 61 3/4 laps. Yeah. So I think he's got it, and he's got the passion. But you know yourself, this day and time, it is about the money. It's not always how good you are. It's about what you can bring to the table financially. So right. It's all a mixture that you try to have to put together to make the best decisions possible. Right.
All right. And last question. I'm trying to get one more good story out of you here.
All right.
Looking to the future, you're 80 years old on your front porch on a rocking chair. You got grandkids in your lap begging for a story. What are you going to tell them?
Well, some of the stories that I would tell would involve some things that have gone on that really probably shouldn't be public right now. I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Yeah. When I decide to do my book, I'm going to write a book when I finally get out of this all one day. But there are some cool stories some games that we've played and some things that we've done, pertaining to racing at Bowman Gray Stadium that, people don't realize at Bowman Gray Stadium, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way. Yep. Not NASCAR, not Bowman Gray management, not anybody, because I think we all know how it goes at Bowman Gray Stadium. You've got 4 officials in the pits, and you got 25 cars, okay? Right. And I understand the format of entertainment, okay? When you see a guy doing something that's a little bit gray area, and he gets by with it and he beats you, and then you come back the next week and you see it again, and you come back the next week and you see it again, you have to start changing how you think. Yeah. It's not, I want to cheat, or I want to get by with something. It's, well, man, he's getting by with it, and he's beat me. I guess I better do it too. So there's a lot of stories I can tell you about Bowman Gray Stadium someday that pertain to some stuff like that are just, when you have a racer's mentality, it's a really cool story. You see, I know everybody's always seen the picture of Dale Earnhardt when he's got his toe up under the nose of the car when they got little stuff like that. There's some really cool stories, but like I said, not that. All I've ever wanted is it be the same for everybody. You know what I mean? We don't go out of our way to think of stuff to get by with.
Right.
We go out of our way to make sure we got the best prepared cars and put all of our effort into it. Sometimes that stems into other things because of the environment that you're in, not just Bowman Gray, every environment. You think about any kind of sport, between deflated basketball, footballs, to sticky on a pitcher's hand. You know, in every sport you deal with that, and so I don't think it's wrong. I think it's you would prefer everybody to be on a straight-laced path, but that's not always the case.
Right. Awesome. Well, I'll give you this opportunity. Just thank anybody that you need to thank, just for
I have to spin around here and look at some cars. Well, obviously, let me start with my team. My team, our teams. I think I speak for most short track teams. They don't get paid. Okay, we buy their pit pass.
Yeah.
And just like last week, I was able to go on spring break with Slate because my crew chief, Jamie, and David, and Doug, and a couple of them came down here. Jamie actually took this car to PSR, had the fuel cell bars fixed. When I got back Friday, it was sitting here basically ready to go. So my team that does it for the same reason I do it, because they love it. The family, you know, we all do this together. My wife, my kids, they all sacrifice. It's a pleasure to me to be in here with my dad and my son today. You know, this is pretty cool to be able to, you know, I said that out loud, it just clicked. You know, here I am here with my dad and my son, doing what I was doing when I was 15. So, but sponsors, absolutely. I'm going to spin around here to make sure I don't miss anybody. Obviously, CitraSafe, Tommy and David and those guys at CitraSafe just support me every chance they can, everywhere I go. No matter if I say, hey, I'm going up north, or I'm going here, I'm going there, they're behind me. Like I said, we picked up Peanut Patch. Backyard Leisure, Alan Mosier and those guys at Backyard Leisure. It's that time of year again to get your swimming pool going. So call Backyard Leisure. PSR Products, who supports us with our chassis and our parts and all that kind of stuff. MJ Graphics, RE, Bale, Bonsai, Buzzy, VP Racing Fuels, Profab, Haviland Express Lube, Bryson Brothers Aerial Solutions. Man, I mean, I could go on for days and days and days if you start thinking about everybody that contributes. Collins Roofing is coming on board with Slate for this weekend. So it's a lot. Oh, I forgot about Little Donuts. Little Donuts is on board with us at Bowman Gray Stadium. Riddle Tractor was on board with us last year. He's on spring break right now. I'm hoping to meet with him next week to get back on board with them, hopefully. Auto Store came on board with Slate originally. It's a guy I graduated high school with or went to high school with. He said, hey, I want to help Slate. So those kind of people, okay, there are corporate people. Peanut Patch, Pat and those guys at Peanut Patch are great and they love it and they want to be involved, but it's a corporate thing, right? Brandon Finley at Auto Store did it because he loves racing and he wants to support local people. So it's all different levels, but it takes every one of those levels for us to be successful. So, NASCAR Institute, Darrell Hoffman and the guys at the NASCAR Institute, Greg Butcher Trucking. See, I'll just keep going. And Bubba Speed Shop, Philip Smith, Live, Tilton QA. I guess, did I get them all, Slate? I don't know. Anyway, like I said, it makes it, when you enjoy what you're doing. Right. But I don't ever call it a sponsor. I call it a partner. Yep. Right? If I take a check from you, you say, I want to sponsor you. Mm-hmm. And you give me a check, and I say, okay, thanks. And that's the end of it. Well, you're not happy. Well, guess what? You don't write any more checks. So I'm not happy. Right. So we got to work together to make everybody happy and to make everybody feel like they enjoy it and like they're a part of it. Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the things I've always tried to do is anybody that's involved with our team, I want them to feel welcome and that they're a part of it. Yeah. Did I say VP Racing Fuels? I got VP Racing Fuels. I just saw it on my tank. Anyway, but thank you for stuff like this. I mean, yes, not just for me, but for the people I just named. Mm-hmm. You know, it helps get exposure for everybody. So
yes, sir. Yeah, well, I appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be posting more here. Just like and subscribe as we post more. I don't really have a set schedule for this yet. This is just this is my kind of test.
Yeah.
So let's see how this is going to go. So, yeah, just like and subscribe for more, and we'll have more out as soon as we can.